Digitalna revolucija. Digitalni poslovni model. Kibernetska sigurnost.
Dobar dan i dobrodošli u naš serijal o digitalnoj revoluciji, o digitalnoj ekonomiji i cyber security-u i svim onim fenomenima koji nam pomažu da pređemo iz industrijske u digitalnu ekonomiju. Ja sam Branislav Vujović, predsednik New Frontier grupe. Kao što znate, New Frontier Group članice su Saga, NPS, New Frontier Innova i Smart. U našem poslovanju mi pomažemo našim korisnicima da pređu iz industrijskih u digitalne poslovne modele i samim tim u digitalnu ekonomiju. U ovoj seriji emisija ćemo govoriti o tome kako se naš život promenio u poslednje vreme od kad je nastala i krenula digitalna ekonomija, ali isto tako o tome kako mi možemo da se prilagodimo i da osvojimo deo digitalne ekonomije. Za mene lično postoje 3 stvari koje su se značajno promenile od kad je nastala ova digitalna ekonomija. Prva je manje me bole leđa, druga je prst me boli malo više, a treća je da radim 24 sata dnevno. Zbog čega? Zato što leđa me bole mnogo manje jer su uređaji sve manje i manje koje koristim. Ako se sećate kako smo koristili velike laptopove i nosali ih po aerodromima i po avionima, danas sa mojim mobilnim telefonom mogu da obavim sve što hoću i sve što mi je neophodno kada putujem. Drugo je, boli me prst jer koristimo prst za sve operacije na ovim uređajima koje danas koristimo. I treće je, dostupan sam skoro 24 časa i moram da odgovaram na sve poruke koje mi dolaze u roku od 24 časa. Neki, a znate i sami, kad vam se pojavi i kad se desi onaj ping na vašem telefonu, vi ne možete da odolite, a da ne pogledate kakva je ta poruka, pa makar sedeli u pozorištu ili ste na nekom sastanku ili slušate neko predavanje. I naš život je jako promenjen u poslednjim godinama, a što je jako važno, tek dolazi ono što je novo i što će da promeni naš život još više. Videli ste da su pre nekoliko dana u Beogradu dovezeni neki električni automobili, videli ste da se mnogo priča o samovozećim automobilima, a pre 3 dana Uber je anonsirao da će da radi i leteće automobile i da će tako da uslužuje svoje goste, odnosno da ih preveze iz tačke A u tačku B. Sve to značajno utiče na ono kako mi živimo i radimo i zato ova serija emisija bi trebala da pomogne i da objasni neke od tih fenomena koji se dešavaju danas. Danas imamo izuzetno interesantne goste koji će nam o tome govoriti i prvi prilog je vezan za situaciju da u digitalnoj revoluciji, digitalnoj ekonomiji jedna od osnovnih stvari koja se menja, mi moramo da menjamo i zakone. Neophodno je da pomognemo firmama, državi i samim ljudima da se prilagode novoj ekonomiji. Daću vam samo primer. Telekom organizacije, telekom firme imaju čitav niz regulative i zakona koji regulišu njihovo poslovanje. Vi morate da kupite licencu, morate da kupite frekvenciju, morate da obezbedite infrastrukturu, morate da zapišete sve pozive kad su bili, koliko su trajali, na koji broj su zvani i da ih čuvate 18 meseci, zavisi od države do države, dok WhatsApp i Viber dolaze i bez ikakvog poštovanja tih zakona počinju da vam pružaju uslugu i u stvari smanjuju prihode velikih telekom kompanija. Pa su zakoni zato vrlo podložni promenama u poslednjim godinama i stalno se određuju novi zakoni. Zato smo pozvali u goste gospodina Savu Savića, koji je pomoćnik ministra za turizam, trgovinu i telekomunikacije i koji u ovom ministarstvu pomaže i vodi i organizuje da se daju novi predlozi koji će omogućiti da digitalna ekonomija napreduje i u Srbiji.
U digitalnom dobu stvari se odvijaju neverovatnom brzinom. Kao posljedica brzog razvoja tehnologije i inovacija dramatično se menja naš privatni i poslovni život, a to znači da moraju da se menjaju i zakoni i regulative i da se prilagođavaju novoj realnosti. Ministarstvo trgovine, turizma i telekomunikacija uputilo je Vladi Srbije nacrt zakona o elektronskom dokumentu, identifikaciji i uslugama u elektronskom poslovanju.
Ovaj zakon će u potpunosti omogućiti elektronsko poslovanje kako između kompanija u smislu da elektronski računi, fakture i potpuna korespondencija teče elektronski. Isto tako će omogućiti da država i privreda posluju potpuno elektronski. Veoma važan segment je i razvoj elektronske uprave, što podrazumeva potpuno elektronsku korespondenciju između građana i države.
Digitalna ekonomija donosi demokratizaciju poslovanja i kako je informacija glavni resurs, ona predstavlja razvojnu šansu za Srbiju, jer putem interneta ukida barijere.
Sam proces digitalne transformacije privrede, društva i države je doveo do toga da je IT sektor u Republici Srbiji jedan od najbrže rastućih sektora sa godišnjom stopom rasta samo na izvozu IT usluga i softvera između 10 i 15%, a informacijne tehnologije s tim u vezi imaju veliki potencijal da unaprede ostale grane i da Srbija praktično postane deo jedinstvenog digitalnog tržišta sveta. Srbija se po istraživanju Međunarodne unije za telekomunikacije trenutno po indeksu razvoja u IKT-u nalazi na 51. mestu od 160 zemalja. A srpska IT industrija je između 30. i 50. mesta. Ovo je zaista ozbiljan rezultat i ono što bih pomenuo kao dobar input je nedavno donešena strategija razvoja IT industrije u Republici Srbiji od 2017. do 2020. godine. I ono što ste imali priliku da čujete od potpredsjednika Vlade i ministra telekomunikacija Rasima Ljajića je da do 2020. ćemo imati praktično svaku kuću koja je povezana na internet.
Hvala gospodinu Savi Saviću na ovim informacijama oko novih zakona koji će promeniti način kako ćemo mi pristupiti digitalnoj ekonomiji. Jedan od problema i najčešće postavljenih pitanja kada govorimo o digitalnoj ekonomiji i digitalnoj transformaciji jeste najčešće strah od sigurnosti. Taj fenomen cyber security-a ili kako bi ga preveli kibernetske bezbednosti je opasna tačka u prelaženju u digitalnu ekonomiju. Moramo da uzmemo u obzir da danas, ako pogledamo oko sebe, vidimo da smo mi do sada uložili ogromna sredstva u našu fizičku sigurnost. Od toga da imamo specijalne brave, specijalna vrata, imamo zaštitne i alarmne sisteme, imamo policiju, vojsku i da se za to u svetu troše milijarde i trilioni dolara ili ti evra. Tada, ako pogledamo da je danas otprilike oko 14% svog poslovanja je i digitalno poslovanje, onda vidimo da nije dovoljno uloženo još uvijek u digitalnu zaštitu, odnosno u odbranu i u cyber security. Ove godine se predviđa da će biti potrošeno oko 78 milijardi dolara za cyber security, što definitivno je u velikom raskoraku u odnosu na ono što uložimo u našu fizičku bezbednost. I toga treba da budemo svesni i da će potrajati još neko vreme dok te dve stvari ne dovedemo u sklad i da će se cyber security razvijati još mnogo više. Zbog toga smo pozvali direktora za sigurnost iz firme Saga u Srbiji, Vladimira Petrovića, koji odgovara i koji radi na svim tim problemima koji su vezani baš konkretno u našoj privredi sa cyber security. Da pogledamo šta kaže gospodin Vladimir Petrović.
Srbija i region već dobre 2 do 3 godine postaju deo sveta, što u ovom cyber security svetu može da bude, možemo reći, je veoma loše. Međutim, pre 2 do 3 godine mi smo u maloj grupi ljudi koji se bavi ovim poslom pričali o napadima i koristili reference velikih banaka kao što je Morgan Stanley, kao što je hakovanje Sony-a, kao što je napad na veliku maloprodajnu mrežu Target u Americi, u kome je ukradeno 75 miliona kreditnih kartica. Međutim, već sada imamo jasne primere u Srbiji i u regionu naših kompanija, bilo da su velike enterprise korisnici, bilo da su male kompanije u biznisu, bilo ko može biti žrtva ovakvog napada. Drugi primjer je vrlo plastičan i u Srbiji i u Beogradu se često dešava, a to je da u jednom regularnom danu, radnom danu zaposlenog u računovodstvu kompanije, dobijete mail od svog generalnog direktora sa običnom informacijom treba da platite neki račun. U prilogu tog maila nalazi se taj račun koji ne izgleda ništa drugo nego drugih računa koje ste dobili prethodnih dana. I naravno vi platite taj račun. Međutim, šta se dešava? Prvo, to nije mail generalnog direktora, to ime i prezime generalnog direktora, mail je falsifikovan i račun, faktura, koju treba da platite, je apsolutno krivotvorena sa računom na nekim Kajmanskim ostrvima, na primjer. Vi ne samo da ste izgubili novac, da kompanija izgubila novac, vi ste uradili i finansijsku prevaru i direktnim ste udarom zakona. Čak bi je FBI ove godine, odnosno u aprilu prošle godine, čak ove godine je ponovio, da takozvani business email scam dobije enormne nivoje, dolazi do enormnih nivoja i gubitak od nekoliko milijardi dolara godišnje za kompanije. To možemo svakome da se desi, mi imamo primere iz života i kompanije od obične male manufakture pa do velikih državnih javnih kompanija.
Hvala, gospodine Petroviću. Ovo je bilo zaista interesantno, ali još interesantniji je naš sledeći gost. Ovog puta smo uspeli da dobijemo Kim Zeter. Kim Zeter je novinarka koja živi u Oaklandu, pored San Franciska u Kaliforniji, u Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama i bavi se već niz godina novinarstvom. Posebno se fokusira na cyber security, odnosno na kibernetsku bezbednost. Ona piše za Wire magazin, znači i najviše piše o tome. Pisala je dosta o hekovanju na izborima u Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama još na prethodnim izborima. Pisala je dosta o raznim načinima kako se može ući u banke, kako su ukradene kartice, odnosno brojevi kartica mnogih korisnika i dobila je čitav niz nagrada. Pisala je pored Wireda još za Los Angeles Chronicles, pisala je za San Francisco, to moram i da pogledam, Chronicles, Jerusalem Post, Sydney Morning Herald i mnoge druge. Ona je pisac i editor u PC Worldu i redovan je gost na mnogim televizijskim programima. Ja joj se zahvaljujem što je prihvatila da bude naš gost i da govori posebno o svojoj knjizi koja se naziva Odbrojavanje do nultog dana, kako je Stuxnet i lansiranje prvog digitalnog oružja. Zašto smo baš o tome izabrali da govorimo? Zato što to je prvi put u istoriji da se jasno označava da je korišćeno digitalno oružje. Samo da napomenem, razlika između onoga kada se samo kradu pojedine informacije preko interneta, makar se i koristile za neki ekonomski efekat posle toga, i digitalnog oružja je u tome što digitalno oružje u stvari uvek nešto uništava na kraju. I zato smo pozvali Kim Zeter i zahvaljujem se što je prihvatila ovaj poziv. Kim, dobrodošli i počinjemo odmah sa prvim pitanjem. Američki predsjednički izbori i cyber security. Kako vi to vidite?
Wow, it's crazy, isn't it? It's hard to wrap your head around it because on the one hand, it's long overdue, right? I mean, these capabilities have been around for more than a decade. It seemed that the only thing missing was a willing partner, a willing adversary that wanted to expose information like this because, cyber espionage has been ongoing for a long time. So it took someone very bold to decide that they were going to use the espionage in this purpose to dump emails. And we sort of saw tricklings of this outside of the political realm in the criminal realm, where we saw hackers beginning around 2012 or so, 2010. There were a couple of hacks where hackers broke into email databases of companies and then dumped those emails online. And then we saw, of course, the Sony hack, which did the same thing, where they dumped executive emails online. So it was only a matter of time before that tactic was now used in the political realm. And then, then we had something like the Panama Papers, where the law firms in the law firm in Panama was all of the documents of its clients were exposed to journalists. They weren't dumped online, but they were exposed to journalists who wrote stories. So we've had this progression of this kind of behavior, and sort of marrying that with political motives is new, but not the end. We're going to see a lot of this, I think.
Dobro, a koliko je to uticalo na rezultate izbora?
I think it was a combination of things. It probably wasn't just the release of the emails. It was certainly the FBI's announcement right before the election that they were investigating Hillary Clinton. I think that probably did a lot more damage than anything else. But, the election itself was very heated and aggressive, and it was a remarkable election all around, and it lasted longer than any of our other elections. I mean, the campaigning went on for more than a year and a half, so that's a long time. And I think that eventually, in an election campaign that long, the worst things about candidates are bound to come out in that period, and they did.
Vaša knjiga govori o nultom danu. Šta je to nulti dan?
So a zero day is a vulnerability or a flaw, a security hole in software. And there are a lot of, vulnerabilities in software. We only call them a 0 day when the maker of the software doesn't yet know about it. So let's say a hacker knows about it. The software maker, like Microsoft, doesn't know about it. And because Microsoft doesn't know about it, there isn't a patch available to fix the hole. And because the vendor doesn't know about it, antivirus companies also don't know about it. And that means that there are no antivirus signatures to scan for malicious software attacking these holes. So 0 day simply means that there's 0 days available to protect the systems because the vendor doesn't know about it.
Sa druge strane, glavna tema vaše knjige je i Stuxnet. Šta je to Stuxnet?
So Stuxnet was a virus/worm. We refer to it both a virus and a worm. A virus, of course, is something that requires the user to take some kind of action in order for it to spread and infect their system, whereas a worm is automatic and it will spread automatically and you don't need to do anything. So the way that Stuxnet got onto systems, it was targeting systems in Iran that weren't connected to the internet. So most viruses and worms spread via the internet. You click on an email attachment and then it mails itself out to all of your your contacts or something like that. But these machines that Stuxnet was targeting weren't connected to the internet. So the attackers they used a 0 day that was designed to infect a system via a USB stick. So you stick the USB stick into your computer, and as soon as the computer reads that USB stick, the 0 day exploit on it would jump into action and drop the malicious Stuxnet files on your system. And then once those systems were infected, it traveled to what are called programmable logic controllers, which is an industrial control system used for critical infrastructure and on assembly lines, things like that. These industrial control systems were controlling the speed of the centrifuges that Iran was using to enrich uranium. And what Stuxnet did was it infected this industrial control system and caused the centrifuges to spin out of control, spin both too fast and too slow. It also caused the pressure inside the centrifuges to increase. And the effect was that it would have destroyed some of the centrifuges, and it also would have destroyed and wasted the uranium hexafluoride gas that Iran was trying to enrich.
Pošto je došlo do uništavanja centrifuga, vi to nazivate da je u stvari to prvi put korišćeno digitalno oružje.
That we know of. I went into the book thinking that this could not have been the first one, right? I was thinking there's no way that this is the first digital weapon the U.S. has used. I came out of the book convinced that it indeed was. That doesn't mean that other countries hadn't used something similar. I don't know about that. But in terms of the U.S., I do believe this was the first one. I want to point out, though, and I do point this out in the book, that around the time that Stuxnet was destroying the centrifuges, there were a number of really mysterious pipeline explosions occurring in Iran. Some of them were explained, or at least like Kurdish separatists took credit for one or two of them. There were other people that took credit for others, but they've never been fully explained. And those kinds of pipelines are controlled by the same industrial control systems that were controlling the centrifuges. And so it's always possible that there are other incidences that have occurred that were the result of cyber attacks, but we just don't know.
Dobro, a koje su dobre, a koje loše strane digitalnog oružja?
Right. I mean, you can look at it two ways. First of all, Stuxnet opened, sort of Pandora's box because it made this kind of activity legitimate. So for countries who have political disputes, they can now look at what the U.S. and Israel did to Iran and say, well, we can do the same thing, and we don't need to go through diplomatic channels or other kinds of political channels to resolve our disputes. So on the one hand, that was the negative. But there's a positive, many people feel, that if you were going to use a digital weapon in this way, probably using it against Iran's nuclear program to set it back was the best use of it, some would argue. Because, as you point out, Israel was pressuring the U.S. to launch an airstrike or to let Israel launch an airstrike against the Iranian facilities. And of course, that probably would have started an all-out war. And we were already fighting wars in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And so this allowed the U.S. and Israel to achieve a different aim, which is, buy some time for diplomacy to work and sanctions to work, without risking lives and without risking an all-out war.
A dobro, ali sa druge strane, da li sada Sjedinjene Američke Države i Izrael imaju pravo da optužuju Kinu, Rusiju i druge za hekovanje kad su oni otvorili ovu Pandorinu kutiju?
Well, they make a distinction. So for attacks are primarily, they're espionage in nature. And the U.S. has chastised, obviously the U.S. engages in cyber espionage as well. They chastise China because China engages in economic espionage. Therefore, the U.S. accuses China of stealing military secrets, not for, sort of necessarily political gain or things like that, but for industrial gain, stealing secrets of software companies, stealing secrets of chemical companies, and biopharmaceuticals and things like that, in order to advance their own industry. And so the U.S. has long insisted that it doesn't engage in economic espionage. It doesn't steal information to then give it to U.S. companies. And so that's the moral high ground that the U.S. takes with China. With Russia now, we have sort of a different scenario here, whereas, intelligence officials have acknowledged that what Russia did, stealing emails and things like that, was, especially of political parties and candidates, was completely ordinary and normal, and something that they themselves would do as well. The difference here was dumping the emails in order to influence the election. But again, the U.S. doesn't have the moral high ground in that regard either, because the CIA, that's been one of its mainstays over many decades, is influencing elections on the ground. They may simply have not done it in the way that Russia did it, or maybe they have, we don't know. So I think that the U.S. makes this distinction between what is considered sort of acceptable espionage, and in the case of Stuxnet, obviously, they crossed a line and went beyond that into physical destruction. And they'll have to answer to that at some point.
Ali ako pogledamo da velike sile imaju i da su ogromni resursi korišćeni za pravljenje Stuxneta, onda velike sile imaju veliku prednost, jer male zemlje kao Srbija ne mogu tako lako da se odbrane i nemaju dovoljno resursa da se odbrane od takvih napada. Šta vi mislite o tome?
Well, it's true in terms of defending yourself. It's interesting, though, that the use of digital weapons like this has actually widened the playing field for countries that don't have the resources for a full army. You don't need, all of the equipment. You don't need all the soldiers to launch and develop a digital weapon. And even if you don't have the skills in your military, you can certainly buy the skills, right? You can purchase the skills of a mercenary hacker. And in fact, we believe that's what's happening in Russia, is that many of the hacks occurring out of Russia are not being done by the government per se, but by hackers who have been enlisted by the government to engage in these activities. So it's opened sort of a whole new field for small countries to even the playing field, let's say, with larger countries.
U vašoj knjizi ste naveli da Marcus Reinum je rekao da se kamenjem bacaju ljudi koji žive u staklenoj kući, odnosno da Amerika ima izuzetno mnogo resursa na internetu i da je zato jako ranjiva. Šta vi mislite?
Right. That was Marcus Reinum, who was one of the developers of the first firewall. He said, obviously in releasing Stuxnet, the U.S. made itself open to similar attacks, and there's no one more vulnerable than the U.S. because of the level of connectivity that we have. And that's absolutely right. I mean, and the government knows that and has known that actually since about 1997, 1998. We saw the first government reports published around that time acknowledging the fact that the more systems that we put on the internet, particularly critical infrastructure systems, the more vulnerable we were going to get. That didn't, however, prompt people to actually secure these systems. So we're in a situation right now where exactly this. We're throwing stones, digital weapons at other countries. We haven't shored up our own systems here.
Da pređemo na digitalnu ekonomiju. Mi propagiramo digitalnu ekonomiju i pomažemo kompanijama da pređu iz industrijske u digitalnu ekonomiju i na digitalne poslove modele. Ali ako postoji ovoliko sponzorisanih napada i od država i od kriminalnih grupa, kako im objasniti, kako im odgovoriti na pitanje o sajber bezbednosti?
Look, we've known for a long time that the attackers have the advantage and that the defenders have a lot to defend. And the attackers only have to find one little hole to get in. I think that, defense is on the losing ground right now because there are so many ways to get in, and the more systems that we connect to the internet, the more that employees bring their own laptops and their own phones and everything onto an internal network. It makes it much more difficult for a company to defend itself. I think that we need to sort of rethink the idea of defense and acknowledge that hackers are going to get in, and that then the focus needs to be on what you do to find them once they're in your system so that it doesn't take a year, 2 years to find them, and also to prevent data from going out. I mean, that's one of the biggest concerns of a company is to lose intellectual property, to lose emails. So if you can detect or prevent data from going out, then it's less of a concern that attackers are in your system for one kind of attack, if they're going to steal data. However, if they're going to cause physical destruction, then that's another matter. And you have to have better defenses for detecting and also for isolating really critical systems so that if an attacker gets in one part of your network, they can't then travel to the more critical parts of your network. And we see companies doing that. We see companies isolating intellectual property in systems that aren't connected to the internet. We see them isolating credit card numbers and starting to isolate critical systems. But of course, people get lazy because security is inconvenient, right? And that's what attackers are counting on.
Drugim rečima, ne treba ostavljati otvorena vrata stana, nego treba staviti sigurnost na vrata.
Right. Many companies are not even doing the minimum that they could do. And so there is a lot that companies can do just to bring themselves up to, sort of the base level of security. And then, beyond that, the really sophisticated hackers are going to get in anyway. But you're going to reduce, the low-hanging fruit. You're going to keep out the small players. And you can focus your resources then, if you need to, on the bigger threats.
Kim, hvala vam puno što ste bili u našoj emisiji i hvala vam za vrlo interesantnu knjigu i želimo vam sve najbolje.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Nadam se da vam je bilo interesantno ovo što ste čuli i da će vam pomoći da donesete možda i neke odluke u vašem prelasku u digitalnu ekonomiju. Mi ćemo nastaviti u sljedećim emisijama da govorimo o poslovnim modelima, o digitalnoj revoluciji i da pokažemo kako najjednostavnije i najbrže možete da iskoristite digitalnu ekonomiju. Hvala vam što ste bili sa nama i doviđenja.
Digitalna revolucija. Digitalni poslovni model. Kibernetska sigurnost.